What's up? Welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Vanity. I'm all about love. I just want to see you win, so I hope you subscribe and stick around. If you clicked on this video or this playlist, that tells me you're either already in your word or you're wanting to start digging a little deeper. And I love that for you. So welcome to today's Bible study. Today we are going to go over the Bible basics. I'm going to give you a little history on the versions of the Bible to help you figure out which one you want to read, the books that make up the Bible, and the different categories that they fall under. When you first pick up a Bible, you have got to make sure you're reading a version that makes the most sense to you. Now, the easiest way to do this is going to go on the Bible app. The Bible app gives you all the versions available. You can pull up a book, pull up a few scriptures, and just kind of compare the different versions and figure out which one makes the most sense to you, which one is the easiest to read. Me personally, I have always read the NIV version, that's New International Version, simply because that was the Bible that was handed down to me by family. And it's a very popular version, so very easy to find. A brief history on kind of where these versions came about. When the Bible was first written, it was written in only 3 languages. The original languages of the Bible are Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. The first English translation that was the most popular was the King James Version, the KJV. And although this was not the first original English version, it was the one that became the most popular. And this was back in the 1600s. And well, as time changes and we go through different centuries of language, the versions and translations will change. So if you want the most accurate English version, it is going to be the KJV. But again, because this was written in the 1600s, it is very, very hard to understand. Now, there are 3 different kinds of translations. There's word for word translations, thought for thought translations, and paraphrased ones. And they're all 3 pretty self-explanatory. The word for word translation is the translation of each individual word to the English language, or the closest English word. Thought for thought, which is the version I read, so a thought for thought is a New International Version, and that translation seeks more to express the meaning of the full sentence or paragraph to the most up-to-date English without being tied to translating word for word. And then lastly, you have the paraphrase translations. So those definitely still convey the Bible, but it's just going to leave readers more room for interpretation. If you simply Google the translations of the Bible, there's actually a bunch of diagrams that'll kind of show you the layout of all the different versions under all the different translations and where all of them fall. That way you have a better idea of what kind of Bible you are reading. Of course, if you want to stay closer to the KJV, you're going to stick closer to word for word. If you like a good in between where you can understand it and you still want it to be accurate, then you're going to want a thought for thought. And if you want something kind of more similar to what a devotional offers, then you're going to go to the very end of the spectrum and you're going to do paraphrase versions. Now, getting into the books that make up the Bible can be very intimidating because a lot of people see it as just one huge book, when really it is made up of 66 books. I consider my Bible like a library of love. I think of all 66 books as 66 love letters that were written to me by God. There are 39 books that make up the Old Testament, and there are 27 books that make up the New. These books were written by people inspired by God. There were about 40 different authors over a period of approximately 1,500 years. And the main theme to me is just God's glory and our need for Jesus and the eternal plan of salvation. These 66 books, they're going to fall under 7 categories. There are 4 categories in the Old Testament, 3 categories in the New. So in the Old Testament, the first category is the law. This is Genesis through Deuteronomy. The second category is history. This is going to be Joshua to Esther. The third category is poetry or wisdom, Job to the Song of Songs. The fourth category in the Old Testament is prophecy, and this is going to start at Isaiah and end with Malachi. The 3 categories in the New Testament are the gospel, starts with Matthew, ends with John. Second category are the letters, which is going to start at Romans and end with Jude. And the third category is the final book of the Bible, which is Revelation. Once you know the version that you want to read, and once you have the breakdown of the different books and the different love letters that make up the Bible, it makes it easier for you to choose where you want to start. You don't necessarily have to tackle the Bible from beginning to end. You can pick and choose based on the different categories if that's easier. If you just want to read about wisdom, then you know you can stay in that poetry or wisdom category. Job to Song of Songs. You can read any of those books and find wisdom. If you just want to read about Jesus, to learn who he is, from birth to resurrection, then you go to the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. If you want to know what was being advised to the world after Jesus was resurrected, then you go to the letters, so on and so forth. I hope this Bible study helped. Let me know what version you read. Let me know what book or category you're currently in, and I'll see you in our next study.